Ready to go? Okay, I'll call to order the Water Pollution Control Authority meeting of the town of New Canaan. Judy, would you please do the roll?
Yeah, Judy Neville, Tom Schulte,
Here.
Amy Carroll.
Here.
Todd Lavieri,
Present.
Michael Chin is
Here.
where? Great,
There.
thank you. And Chris Labrie,
Here.
Victor Alvarez absent, Maria Weingarten.
Here.
Robert Hamel,
Here.
Paul Dobbin,
Here.
and James Yao is
Not
not coming.
Supposed to be.
All right, maybe. All right, we'll still need a replacement. We need to make a motion to replace seat Colm for Victor Alvarez. So give a motion.
Amy, motion second,
Okay,
second. Chris? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None, okay. So Colm, you're live.
Thank you.
Okay, I could please just item 2 on the agenda, a motion to approve the minutes from our October 11th meeting.
So moved.
Tom, second? Second, Chris, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, so great. Okay, just to remind everybody, this is not a public hearing. It was not noticed as one. We won't be having public comments. We are here to continue to have the discussion and a vote on the proposal that was sent to you, I believe, yesterday. So let me step through where we are on the proposal and then get your input. This is WPCA.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I thought you started at 6 o'clock.
No,
no,
tonight just 7. Board of Finance follows.
Be here.
Yeah, come back and you can watch it online. Okay. Okay, so you all have this. I'm not going to read it to you, but I am going to point out some highlights just as it relates to the Hill Street application, as we know, is in front of us for about 100 proposed units. As you remember, we received the application. We had our 65 days. It ended in December. We asked for an extension to tomorrow, actually, and we're granted that extension. And this meeting is to consider the proposal that was sent to you. So stepping back and like I said, I won't read what was sent to you, but I will put out some comments and get to the proposals. We have seen 3 significant housing developments at Weed Street, Main Street, and Hill Street. Those have been brought to us and to the various departments and obviously to the WPCA. In addition, we do know that the Canaan Parish development on Route 123, also significant growth there, nearly doubling from 60 units to 100. As the WPCA, our role continues to be to safely assess and answer questions relating to water and pollution control. We've worked with town engineer, public works, to assess the capacity, the condition, really the ability of the town's water and sewer infrastructure and water treatment plant to accommodate the needs of each development. However, stepping back, as the WPCA should, and given the scale, the speed, the size, and the timing, the concurrent timing of the 3 applications, it's proposed that they're viewed and assessed really in total and holistically, analyzing all of them together rather than incrementally one at a time. There's a scenario where all 3 could be built and fully occupied at some point, in addition to Canaan Parish and other areas of growth in the town. The impact of that scenario really can't be looked at through a theoretical one-off approach. The town's Public Works Department has played a crucial role in the preparation of what's called a Plan of Conservation and Development, a POCD. It's developed and refreshed once a decade as required by state law. The most recent New Canaan plan that assessed the infrastructure and water treatment plant and capability and capacity was done in 2014, 9 years ago. That plan did not envision a large wave of simultaneous applications of this scale, nor did it address the potential impacts of climate change. And I'll come to that in a minute. Why have a POCD? Well, Chapter 126, Section 8-23 of Connecticut's General Statute requires that towns create and adopt one every 10 years. There are some legal reasons for that and penalties for not having one, but more importantly, it's really a guideline, a set of important, analysis that allows us to make decisions to think about the commercial activity, the level, the scale, the scope of municipal services. So it's proposed that we immediately request that planning and zoning initiate with Public Works and the town engineer a refreshed strategic plan. We believe it's our jurisdiction, it's our right, it's our responsibility to have a reasonable and necessary assessment as to where we are and where we're heading before we move or approve any more significant increases in demand and service. Again, especially in light of climate change and potential challenges that climate change may present to our infrastructure over the next decade. Regarding climate change, we learned just in December that in the infrastructure bill that was just passed, it acknowledges that the data that the government puts out, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration puts out, is not accurate as it relates to rainfall projections used by states and local municipalities across the country. The data is sometimes 10, 20, 50, even 60 years old. The new bill mandates that this data be updated to include climate change forecasts, given the flooding that so many towns and cities have seen across the country in the last 5 years. So we also propose that the Public Works add to their upcoming budget request any resources, consulting services necessary to conduct the required due diligence and analysis in order to deliver a refreshed strategic plan to planning and zoning and the WPCA. It's important to note that the nature of the three applications is not the driving force behind this request. It's simply the sheer volume, the scale, the speed, and the concurrent timing of the three applications that's caused concern as we enter our 10th year and approach the deadline. So as it relates to the Hill Street application, it's also proposed that the WPCA reject this application as it awaits the findings of the POCD strategic plan. So I'll stop there. We have a proposal to request planning and zoning initiate a POCD, that Public Works add to their budget, and that we reject the application. Discussion, questions? Yeah, we're not really having a public conversation.
Mr. Chairman, Chris Smith on behalf of the applicant.
Yeah, this is not a public discussion, not a public meeting. We didn't notice it as such. We're not here to litigate this. We're here to discuss our proposal.
But Mr. Chairman, my client is the applicant, and I respectfully submit that we certainly have the ability, whether it's a public hearing or not, to address the comments from the chair relative to the merits of our application that's pending before you.
Well, like I said, we have three proposals on the table that this committee is going to discuss, and we're going to move on.
And having learned, go ahead. I'm sorry,
Todd. It's Pete Gelderman. I think the WPCA can certainly discuss these items, but I think it's appropriate to give the applicant and the applicant's attorney at least an opportunity to comment. And because if the rejection is a denial, typically, even if it's not a public hearing, it's an application, and there are certain just fundamental fairness tenets that would apply here. So I would recommend to you and to the WPCA that at least Attorney Smith gets an opportunity to comment. But
and I do have some comments, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to cross-examine anybody at this juncture, but I do have comments about your information that, in fact, I just learned of this meeting yesterday. But again, it is having served on a WPCA myself, I mean, it is a process. There's, as Attorney Gelderman indicated, there's something that's pretty well established in Connecticut land use law, and that deals with what Attorney Gelderman just said is fundamental fairness in the process, and that's due process. And I think I just have comments that I would like to make for you to consider, as well as the balance of the authority before acting on your suggestion, especially in light of the fact that I did file a request this morning. I don't know if you have it, but I did indicate that certain data that we were asked to generate with monitoring after trying for many months to get access to the system, we were able to do that. And that data has not been provided to us yet by the company that's compiling it. And then we did ask for additional time through a consent to the agency to generate that information that this agency itself requested back in October. So I just have some comments. I appreciate the opportunity to make them. And then you and the authority certainly can do what you.
Sure. Why don't we do that?
you
Were those your comments or you have more?
No, I have I very quickly pulled my thoughts together just late this afternoon, becoming aware of this. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the WPCA and professional staff and Attorney Gelderman. For the record, my name is Chris Smith and I represent the owner applicant Hill Street 72 LLC. I think in attendance this evening, I understand that Paul Stone and Arnold Karp are there physically in attendance. And we do, if you have any questions, we do have our professional civil engineer, Derek Donay, who did provide you with the sewer report that was submitted in support of the application. As far as my comments, just would like to indicate last October 11, 2022, the minutes that you just approved, WPCA and your staff recommended that the applicant Hill Street 72 LLC perform certain monitoring and testing before the WPCA could act on the subject application, which, as you're well aware, requests confirmation of sewer capacity to serve the proposed residential community of 93 units. After experiencing delay to gain access to the applicable manholes within the town system, the applicant performed the requested monitoring. And as indicated in the letter that I just referenced, that I sent through the first selectman's office this morning to the chair, we're still waiting for that data to be provided by a company known as Flow Assessment Services, or FAS. I think based on what I read this afternoon, that the chair summarized that the applicant is now told that the WPCA doesn't want to wait for the requested monitoring results. And instead, the WPCA, at least with this draft proposal, proposes to deny the subject sewer capacity request, claiming that the WPCA first needs the town to update its plan of conservation and development, or as the chair indicated, the POCD, a document that, as well established by law in Connecticut, is advisory to town agencies, isn't required to be updated by law until 2024, next year, and most importantly, does not govern applications requesting confirmation of sewer capacity submitted to a WPCA pursuant to Section 7-246A of our Connecticut General Statutes. In part, the information provided, this proposed approach, the WPCA claims that this action is necessary, quote, in light of climate change and potential challenges that may present to our infrastructure over the next decade, end of quote. I respectfully submit that the question before the WPCA is whether there is sufficient capacity in the town sewer system to serve the proposed residential community. And if so, then the WPCA, as a matter of law, and you can ask Attorney Gelderman to provide you further analysis on this, to approve the request for confirmation of capacity. So again, if there's capacity, then as a matter of law, the WPCA in this case, with the connection being there, is required to approve the application of the request. Now, how the POCD may apply to the applicant's request, which I respectfully submit it doesn't, has no bearing whatsoever on the question before the WPCA. As I indicated earlier, I only became aware of this meeting. I happened to check the town's website yesterday, which, as we know, is a state holiday, Martin Luther King Day, and I saw the agenda. And I only became aware of the draft assessment and request for vote this evening because I called your town attorney, Peter Gelderman, this afternoon about whether the meeting shouldn't be continued until the data requested by the WPCA was compiled and provided to the authority. During this conversation, your counsel advised me of this draft assessment. Now, as to the chair's comments, a POCD is advisory only and provides municipal agencies throughout all municipal agencies in your town with guidance as to potential land uses and governmental decisions over a projected 10-year time period. It does not apply to nor govern applications requesting confirmation of sewer capacity as pending before this agency, or excuse me, the authority. The laws in effect at the time an applicant submits a land use application, and I would respectfully submit that would include your POCD, which is not a law, including an application to a WPCA under section 7246A, govern that application through the review and decision process. Advisory documents such as the POCD can't be modified and then used retroactively to deny a request for confirmation of sewer capacity. And I just would like to respectfully submit that the record before the WPCA confirms that there is more than sufficient capacity in your town sewer system to accommodate the residential community. Specifically, this is the material that we've submitted in some of the follow-up material from your town engineer, and in particular from AECOM in a report from March of 2022, just last year. Specifically, the town's sewer system has capacity for 1.7 million gallons per day. And even with the additional gallons per day associated with the proposed community, in the other recently approved or proposed residential communities, including Canaan Parish referenced by the chair before, and the Weed Street and Main Street applications that have been before you, there is approximately 224,000 gallons per day of capacity remaining in your system. And the proposed community will generate 26,500 gallons per day, which is approximately 1.3% town's total capacity. And finally, for the record, I respectfully submit that the WPCA's conduct essentially denies my client of its right to due process and fundamental fairness due to my client's prejudice. If the WPCA denies my client's application as proposed in this draft assessment, we will be forced to take an appeal and request, based on the record before the WPCA, and which will then be before the court, that the application be approved. So therefore, in conclusion, I respectfully request that the applicant be allowed to continue to process this application as provided by law. And I do thank you for your time and the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, to make these comments to the WPCA this evening.
Yeah, thank you.
If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to respond to them. Thank you.
Just one point of clarification.
Yes, sir.
You know the timing of this meeting and the deadline since December, because we asked for the 30-day extension, which you gave us, which is tomorrow. So, we didn't ask for another extension.
Well, actually, I always feel it's a little ironic because typically the applicant has to ask for the extension, and then by statute the applicant also consents to it from whatever agency it is or a commission. It could be the P&Z Commission. In this case, again, the request is the additional time is required to simply obtain the information that you have requested and your staff.
We're talking about
has
two different
requested.
things. No, we're talking about two different things.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The 65 days ended in December, and in December, we asked through Attorney Gelderman for an extension of 30 days, which is tomorrow. You granted it.
Yes.
Okay.
And now we're willing to grant additional because we needed,
fine, but
actually,
that's
we
fair
couldn't
enough,
even,
but now
we
my
couldn't even
turn.
gain access to your system at that point. We couldn't even get into the manhole. So since then, we've been able to do that. We generated we did the monitoring and generated the data that now has gone to, again, Flow Assessment Services, and they're going to turn around and generate the data for your staff to review, for you to review, and for my client to review. So we just needed time to generate the information that you've requested.
I understand that as it relates to the second request. The first request was by us. You approved it to tomorrow. So I don't think it's appropriate to imply that you weren't aware that this meeting was happening.
Oh, it was not.
And it was posted as appropriately on Friday. So in any event, let's not spend a lot of time on that. We asked for 30 days. You gave it to us. That was great. And so as it relates to your other comments, I'll let the board ask questions, but you're asking a WPCA who is witnessing an unprecedented amount of development in a town where we're working off of a 10-year-old plan with apparently, maybe inaccurate data based on what we just learned in the climate bill, the infrastructure bill. So any questions from the members of the board?
Yeah, if I could just ask, Tiger, when we last did the POCD, do you know, was that all prepared and performed in-house, or do we use outside consultants to help prepare that?
No, we used an outside consultant, Glenn Calder, performed that for our planning and zoning department.
And that would be your intention to reach out to either that firm or someone similar to that?
That's correct. We're actually looking at two separate consultants. Glenn Calder to stay with consistency with our 2003 and 2014 plans, And then for some additional services looking elsewhere. The Planning and Zoning Commission spoke about that last month as to that's what the way they would like to see it proceed. Excuse me.
And then just in terms of process, maybe Tiger, maybe I don't know if this is fair or unfair, but once you have a plan that you and the consultants are happy with, is it planning and zoning that reviews it and approves it, and then it officially becomes the POCD of the town?
Yeah, it actually starts and ends with the Planning and Zoning Department and the commission itself. They're the ones that run the study and hire the consultant. We've been asked to hire as part of this POCD before this meeting and before this decision. Our town planner, our prior town planner, Lynn Brooks Abney, asked us to put together some monies in our budget to perform a sewer study as part of this POCD. So that is actually in our budget presentation that we gave to the Board of Selectmen this morning, and $25,000 for consulting fees for that study to move forward, to be in conjunction with the development of the plan.
Okay.
Just one other follow-up regards to your comment, I think, Attorney Smith, on due process. I actually did go to our attorney to say, what we're really asking for is a deferral until we get more data. And he said, no, you really only have two choices. You can accept or reject, which is unfortunate, because what we're really asking for is deferral so that we can make a better decision with more information. So
Again, Mr. To respond to your question or inquiry or comment, is the, a sewer plan is not a POCD. They're two different documents altogether. And when an application is filed for, I think you have more than enough data. AECOM provided a report from March 22nd, 2022, and it indicated there was lots of capacity. And I think it indicated, I have it here, that up to 40%, was it over 40%? And this is your own folks doing an empirical study of your system. And AECOM believes that the plant could accommodate an increase in average flow load of up to approximately 40% without sacrificing current treatment performance. Again, this proposal involves 1.3%. So I respectfully submit that a POCD does not, and I'm very familiar with the process, and I know Mr. Chalder very well personally, and POCD is not a document that governs a sewer water pollution control authority or a sewer commission. And if you have a sewer plan, that's one thing. That's what we can refer to with this application. But a POCD is not something that would drive the train as to whether there's sufficient capacity. That's the subject of this residential community and this request that's pending before the commission, or excuse me, the WPCA. And I respectfully submit that there's no additional information that could be generated through a plan of conservation and development, rather to an advisory document with a wish list of land uses going forward for the town of New Canaan, which is a very valuable document. And it's a process that, as Director Mann indicated, is done through the Planning and Zoning Commission for good reason, because it's a planning tool and a planning document. Thank you.
any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment?
Sure.
It's Pete Gelderman for the record. And there may be questions that members have. The last thing Attorney Smith said, or one of the last things he said, was that obviously if the WPCA goes forward with the denial, there'll be an appeal,
Sure.
which is fine.
Fine.
But what that does is threaten litigation. Pending or threatened litigation opens the door for an executive session. If anybody had any questions that might be better discussed in executive session, I just thought that was something people should be aware of in case, because there are legal issues here that we as town attorneys are always reluctant to discuss necessarily when litigation is involved in an open forum. But that's a suggestion.
Yep, that's an excellent point.
I-
It came up before.
Yeah.
What does the committee think? Would you like to adjourn to executive session, discuss this a little bit further?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's a good. idea.
I think that would be a great idea.
Okay, all right.
It,
Okay.
it
this
can't
is
be
exactly
tonight.
What we asked to not happen. Attorney Smith, I specifically granted you the opportunity to talk to this board. I specifically said, this is not a public hearing. And if I'm going to allow anybody else to speak, then I need to have all the people that live in all these towns all over the town come in here and speak. And I didn't allow that. So the answer is no, no.
Request tomorrow morning, I'd like to see the state filed sewer permit that you have to file each year, which Tiger Man has not been able to give us. So I assume.
Yeah, and I'm not, we're, so a motion to move into executive
So moved.
session?
No, 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 no.
Second.
Yeah, Todd,
Mike,
you can't do that without noticing it. So there has to be a notice. So unfortunately, it's not on the agenda tonight. So anytime you go into executive session, you have to notice it at least 24 hours in advance. There, obviously, it can be a Zoom session any time of the day or evening, but it has to be properly noticed, even if it's an executive session.
As our agenda stated, this was a discussion with the possible vote. And so what we may need to then do is table the opportunity to vote and adjourn the meeting and establish a executive session at a later date.
Right, correct. And then, yes, and then it's noticed and I can answer questions that members of the WPCA may have that are better left discussed in an executive session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Attorney Smith has asked for, tomorrow's our deadline. Attorney Smith asked for an extension. I guess we could grant it and advise us another day or two if we need to, but 24 hours, I guess technically would be tomorrow night at this time, so.
Well, it has to be noticed 24 hours in advance, so it has to go onto the website in town clerk's office 24 hours prior to the executive session, whenever. And I think obviously the board needs to discuss when everybody's available and what the timing would be, and then after that's determined, notice can be posted with the town clerk.
Okay, well, let's do that. Let's go follow by the book. As you said, that's the litigation's been threatened, so we've got to handle it that way.
And for the record, Mr. Chairman, in my letter, I did indicate consenting to a time frame through February 9th. So you take your time. You have plenty of time to accommodate an executive session. I just didn't want to think we were going to impose any short time period on the WPCA, but thank you very much.
That's helpful. Thank you. Okay. Okay, well, that then, motion to adjourn our meeting. I don't think we're going to finish this discussion without executive session, so.
Well, just so it's clear, so we're gonna adjourn, explore date to reconvene
Mhm.
in executive session, notice that session,
Yep.
and then,
Then
I
notice
guess-
another meeting because we have to have the final
Right.
discussion and disposition of where we're
right,
going to go.
but in the meantime, convey to Attorney Smith, the date by which the extension, so that our
Perfect.
executive session. All right, so that all sounds good to me. So on that basis, I'm happy to move to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Second, Judy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
No,
None? Okay, WPCA is adjourned. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Smith.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome. Good night.
Which is on our other meeting? Yeah, okay.
Yep.